Whenever you're stringing a Prince tennis racket that's got O ports on the side of it like this racket has, it's very important that you start your crosses, which are the strings that run from side to side, on the correct side of the racket. This string right here has to enter from the outside of this O port going into it, and it'll go across to a grommet hole on the other side. These O ports on this side of the racket don't match up exactly to the O ports on this side of the racket. Now your string's going to come across, it's going to go into the grommet hole, then on the outside of the frame it'll go back into the O port on the top portion of the O port. It'll go into the O port on the other side from the inside of the racket, loop around and go into the O port from the outside of the racket on the top half. If you started on the wrong side, this string right here will come from this side, come across here, and it'll go down to the bottom of this O port. And your strings will be all kittywampus or crooked. I've got my main strings ran in now, but I don't have my cross strings actually woven across here. From looking at this racket, you can pretty easily see what will happen if you start on the wrong side of the racket. I've started my my crosses on the wrong side, and when that happened, I came out of this normal grommet here and I went across and entered the O port on the inside of the frame. And when you do that, it's going to try to go down to the bottom of that grommet. Then I'll come around, go into the top, which is normal now. Then I'll go into the bottom of the O port over here, and I'll come around and start going down. The rest of this racket will look fine, but that string right there is kittywampus. It's angled down, and I'm missing a cross string in here. Okay, so Prince gives you a designation if you're doing it one piece, which side is the short side of the racket. That's this side over here. And it tells you where to start your crosses. Like right there it says tie off crosses. Well, I'm going to tie off crosses on this side, which is the wrong side of the racket. So it's very important that you make sure that you get you start your crosses in the right direction. They have to go across this way when they're going down, and not this way, which is backwards, because the Prince rackets are not symmetrical if they got the O ports on the side of them. I've started my crosses on the correct side now, and what I'm doing is I'm going into this O port from the outside, then I'll go into a normal grommet on the other side. I'm not weaving it through there because I'm not going to string the racket this way. Then everything comes out straight. Then again I'll go into the next O port from the outside, and I'll go into that same O port I went into through the last time, and I'll go into the bottom of it, so that when I pull these strings tight, everything will lay straight across the racket. I won't have any of those strings that are kittywampus in there. Here's the problem you're going to have when you're tensioning the crosses on a racket with O ports on the side. When I pull tension on this string, the string wants to lay in the top half of the racket. It wants to lay in the top portion of this O port. So I can't get this clamp up there without clamping the other cross string too, without doing a lot of finagling to get my clamp in there. Alright, one thing that I could do is I could put my clamp in there the way it should be, and then pull tension on my string. Then once I get my tension, I can clamp down on the string, then release my tension. Okay? But watch what happens when I put in my next cross. When I put in the next cross string now and I pull tension on it, this string is being held up about 3/8 of an inch above the top portion of that grommet. So when I pull tension on my next string, I'm going to have to get the clamp in here to start this thing. It's very awkward. I can start it, pull tension on it. But then I've got the problem over here where that string is still crooked. As soon as I take and clamp down on this string, and the next time when I release this string down here, see how it fell back? Look how loose that string is. That's not a way to do it. Okay, so I've got a piece of scrap string in here I'm going to throw away anyway so I can do anything I want with it. But what you have to do when you're stringing these O ports is you have to find a way of getting this string, when you're pulling tension on it, to lay in the bottom of this O port.